Okay, so I'll share the video that we want to watch today. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And most of us, I presume, have come here this morning or go to church or anything because our life is so monotonous, so lonely, so utterly meaningless. And we want to find something that will be deeply gratifying, that will bring about deep content. So, why are we discontented, and with what? Please answer the question to yourselves. The speaker will go into it, but you have to answer it for yourself. But you have to make
Talks and the writings of Krishnamurti have, over the past 4 decades, given him a unique position as one of the more challenging and authentic voices of our time. The series, of which this is the concluding program, represents the first time that Krishnamurti has allowed his talks to be filmed.
And continue their joy has not. We are discontented through comparison. We are discontented to bring about a change in what is. And we are discontented because we don't know what to do with what is. And being discontented with what is, we develop the idea of what should be, the ideal, the utopia, the gods, the heaven, and so on and on and on. So our action then is based on an idea, and the approximation to that idea is action. Then I am discontented with what is, and I want to be something different from what is. The idea being rational or irrational thought put together as an idea or an ideal, and I have that ideal, and that according to that ideal I live, which is called action. And there is conflict between what is and what should be. And in that conflict we are caught. And all our questions, demands, searching is that between what is and what should be. And the greater the tension between what is and what should be, the greater the neurosis. And also greater if one has the capacity to express that conflict verbally. In the theater, in music, in art, in so many ways, literature and so on. And being discontent with what is, we invent gods, which becomes our religion. That is the escape we have from what is. And is it possible to radically change what is? That is the real search, not the other. The other is not such at all. Is it possible to totally bring about a mutation in what is? And to go into that, to go into this question of bringing about a total revolution in what is, one must have an extraordinary sense of awareness. You know, to be aware what it means. To be aware of the trees, of the blue sky through the trees, of those hills beyond, of that noise of a motor, of the colors that are there in front. Just to be aware. And to be aware so choicelessly, you know very well that you can't change it. You can't change the mountains. You can't change the beauty of that sky. But when we are aware of what is, we want to transform it. We are endlessly active. And there begins sorrow. Because with the ending of sorrow is the beginning of wisdom. And the ending of sorrow is the understanding of what is. And the understanding of what is can only come when you observe, when you are aware, when the mind is incapable of wanting to change what is, which doesn't mean it is satisfied with what is. So, one has freed the mind, or the mind has freed itself from this everlasting search that's finished. And that means a tremendous burden of one's shoulder. Then being free, you can look. And to look, you need great energy. And that energy comes only when there is this awareness without conflict. This awareness in which there is no conflict of any kind. Just observation. And there will be conflict only as long as there is the observer and the observed, which is what is. But what is the observed. Please don't learn phrases, but see the actual fact. Then you will find that where there is the observer, the center, the sensor, the experiencer, the entity that is always creating the division between the observed and the observed. And as long as there is an observer, there is no freedom. You know, every object, like this microphone, creates a space around itself and is in space. No. The object, and not only outwardly, but an object inwardly, as the me, as the experiencer, as the I, as the thinker. That center creates a space in consciousness. This space in consciousness is always limited because there is always the center. When they expand this space from the center, and however much you may expand, it'll always have a border, a frontier. And therefore, that space is always psychologically limited. And therefore, there is no freedom in that space. And that center, that observer, is obviously memory. Memory of what has been, whether of yesterday or 1,000 years. That center is the tradition, is the conditioned state which has been put together by time, both chronologically and psychologically. That center is the accumulation of knowledge, experience. It's always, that center is always the past. Yes. Therefore, that center is not a living thing. It is a dead memory of what has been. And when it creates a space, but it's very, very, very small around itself, as most of us do, concerned with itself, endless. Its activities, its propositions, its ideas, it's a shabby little thing around itself. And that can expand. But however much it may expand through various tricks of thought, of compulsion, of drugs, it is always within the space which the center has created. and therefore there is no freedom, and therefore there is no peace at all. And when one observes that only when there is space, there is freedom. And that space cannot possibly exist psychologically as long as there is an observer. Right? And one must have space, as one must have beauty. Beauty which is not man-made. And is it possible then, if there is no time at all, to end what is, to end the observer, and therefore to look without the interval of time? You know, time is the space between the observer and the tree. The observer is static and the tree is static, psychologically. And so to cover the distance between the observer and the tree takes time. And that distance which has been created by the observer and the observed is always static, is always stationary. So when one thinks of using time or allowing time to bring about a change in the observer, you are only being caught in the static state. So when you discover that, then you ask, is it possible to change instantly what is? The center is violence. I'm taking that as an example. It isn't really an example, it's a fact. One is violent, that's a fact. And the movement towards non-violence is static movement. It's no movement at all. I explained that previously. So our question is then, is it possible to end violence, not through time, but immediately? Because if there is observer, he's always limiting the space, and therefore there is no freedom. Therefore, as long as the observer exists, every form of attempt to transcend it, to go beyond it, is still a waste of time. So our question then, is it possible to end what the observer, not what is? When there is no observer, there is no what is. It is the observer that creates what is. So, how is it possible to end the violence? Aggression, you always say. The immense hatred that one has stored up, resentment. How is it possible to end it? So that one is completely, totally free of it. Probably one has never asked this question. Either when I said it, one puts up with it, gets used to it, and carries on. But if one puts that question, either you put it casually, or you put it with intention to find out. Therefore, you become very serious. And when you put that question, because you are serious, because you are intent, then you are aware of the whole process of the observer, which means you are totally attentive, completely attentive. And in that attention, there is no border created by the center. And when there is complete attention, there is no observer. Look, when you look at those mountains behind the speaker, they're blue, like straight line, and the valley, and so on. When you give your complete attention to look, is there an observer? The observer comes into being only when in that look there is inattention, which is distraction. So only total attention brings about the cessation of the observer. And when there is this ending of the observer, there is the ending of the thing which he has created as what is. Because as we said, the observer is the observed. Now, we have in this way eliminated all conflict of search. We have eliminated all conflict between what is and what should be. We have put away the observer. And therefore there is attention from it last a second. That's good enough. Don't be greedy to have more. In that greed to have more, you've already created the center. And then you're caught. In that attention, there is no seeking at all. And therefore, there is no effort. So the mind becomes extraordinarily alert, active, silent. Then only can the mind be in a state of no experience. And this is important to understand. We all depend on experience. Experience being to go through something. We all depend on experience to keep us awake, a challenge, a question, an external impetus, influence to keep us awake. Naturally, for the moment, that that challenge, that external force keeps awake for a few minutes and one goes back to sleep. So one depends constantly on experience to keep awake. And when one realizes that, you reject all outward stimulus, all outward or inward experience. Then one can ask, can the mind be so intensely alert without experience? And if it is made alert through experience, it is not alert. Obviously. If an experience makes me laugh, then it's not love. Behind it, there is a motive. So, such a mind is the religious mind. No longer seeking, no longer demanding experiences, is not caught in visions. And such a mind has an activity totally different, at a different dimension, which thought can never possibly reach. Thought has a place, very small place. But when one realizes that, thought has no place at all. Which doesn't mean you live on ugly little sentiments, emotions. So one can function normally, healthily, sanely in this world with a mind that is not cluttered up by thought. And it's only such a mind, the religious mind, that can know something beyond all the imaginations and structure of man's hope.
This has been the concluding program in a series of 8 presenting the talks of Krishnamurti. In his writings and talks over the past 4 decades, the insights and the challenges of Krishnamurti have attracted an ever-increasing audience in Europe, Asia, and America. This series, however, represents the first time that Krishnamurti has allowed his talks to be filmed.
Yes, we have Mr. Rajendran. Yes, sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Namaste, sir.
Namaste, namaste.
Namaste, sir. Thank you.
Namaste, namaste.
Good evening, all the friends. Actually, today it's a very complex subject. This observer is the observer. And thank you, Dubey, for selecting this. I raised my hands first because before someone raises their hand and tells something, sometimes the whole dialogue is, I say, within quotes, hijacked to some other subject. So before that, I want to add my, because I consider this is very important. So Krishnaji made two statements in this. Actually, I saw this video long time back, maybe made one or more times, but today I got a new, new idea, whatever it is. Krishnaji made two statements. That is, observer is the observed. Observer creates what is. Agreed. It is very clear. When there is no observer, there is no what is. So that is also very clear. There is no this thing. And another statement, when there is complete attention, there is no observer. Okay. Then if we read both the statements together, when there is complete attention, there is no observer. When there is no observer, there is no what is. Then what happens to the reality? Is he talking about the Maya? So let me repeat again. When there is complete attention, there is no observer. It's very clear. Observer creates what is. When there is no observer, there is no what is. So both observer and observed both are gone, vanished. So what is left with that? Just I'm wondering, sir. So if your friends also think over on these statements, I will be very grateful to them. And the second, and another, so I will talk about change afterwards because that will be diverted. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rajendran. I think the most important thing that Krishnaji has spoken about in this video is that there is no what is when there is no observer. I think I've heard this for the first time. And I think before I say anything, I would like others to speak about it, because normally we feel that what is exists, and it's the mind which creates what should be. But I think he is questioning the very existence of what is, which perhaps one can imply is created by the self, the observer or the center. So I want others to say something about it before I express my views on it.
Sir, before that, let me, one second, give me 1 second first, sir.
Yeah,
so
please.
We thought when there is no observer, only observed is there. That is a reality. Now, today he is telling, so both are gone. Observer is also gone, observed is also gone. Both are gone.
Sir, I don't know. I beg to differ with this. The observation is there. How can the observation be gone?
So, observer and observed, sir, not observation, sir. Observed and the observation, both are gone.
So what is observed? How can that vanish? That is the question I'm raising. That is something
yes,
which we need to go slowly and find out.
Yes,
what does he mean by
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Prasad Garu, you want to say something on this?
I will rush in where.
No, I think we are all with you, so you can safely venture into anything.
Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Okay, sir. I think when the observer is gone, there is no observed, because the observed is the creation of the observer. Observer being the past, the tradition. That tradition, that past, that previous knowledge, etc., creates the observed. And when the observed is gone, through attention, possibly there is end of the observed, which is the what is. What is the what is the observed. What is the creation of the observer. That is how I understand, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad sir. I have a question on this. Is the observer created by naming? If there is no naming or identification, will the existence cease to be? I may not, a child looks at moon, it doesn't know the name of that shining object. So it's not naming, it's not, but can we say that the moon doesn't exist? I'm just raising questions, sir. I'm not contradicting anybody. Anybody can pitch in. Yes, Dinesh.
Very interesting topic, sir. Here, Krishnamurti is speaking, in my views, in a different mood altogether. And he has also changed some of the wordings and some of his what he wants to state. Interesting thing is, observer. Who is the observer? We are clear from other his statements that technologically observer will always be there because first of all, why observer is created? Observer is created because of the insecurity. Whatever memory you have content in your brain or in mind, the memory you have content because of your basic insecurity. You want to tackle the present situation in a better way. That's why you want to use that memory as your experience. And you want to have a better response. Now, the problem comes when you also carry with you a lot of garbage of old emotional and your feelings material, which is of no use to you in the today's moment, or you don't have any usage of it, let us say. Now, here what he means, so technologically, scientifically, observer will always be there. It is very clear. Now the thing is, when we say about emotional garbage or feelings garbage, so when he says here, when he says that what is created by the observer, in my views, what he wants to say, various other places he says what is different in a different context altogether. But here what he wants to say, whatever the colors have been given by the what is, or what are the restrictions you have put on the what is in your, or whatever thought has interfered in the way of past memory and put its own what you say blanket on or hurdle or the whatever you can say the thing which has restricted the message from the your actuality. So that is colored because of your past memories and your all past garbage. So it is very clear. So here what is his, when he says that the whatever the colored image you are getting, so that is the problematic thing. In the starting also he said ending of the sorrow. So ending of the sorrow means already you are having some past experiences and that's why the sorrow has been created. And now that sorrow you are carrying forward and now that is coloring the coming images. Now how to end it? Now this is a very tremendous question and very important question. This question is coming in this, everything, the whole Krishnamurti teachings has been covered because it directly means that you have to tackle your ego. Now, ego, when you want to tackle the ego, all you have to understand, as he said clearly, that ending of sorrow is bringing wisdom. So you have to reach to that level of wisdom when wisdom replaces your ego. to the extent that all actions should be from the wisdom only. And the daughter of wisdom, we said elsewhere, that intelligence. So in one way, unless the intelligence come into picture, the whole of this matter will not be solved and conflict will not end. Conflict will end when ego is not there. Now, to tackle ego means to the whole teaching of the Krishnamurti comes into picture. It is very clear. Now, how to tackle this? There are two things. Either time comes into picture or time doesn't come into picture. In my views, and there also he has given hint, you have to require energy. Now, what is the quality of energy you should have? The same quality which has created this garbage and this thing in your memory. So does that energy is available to you? Is it in the hand of ego or observer to cut his own arms and legs and all that? That is very interesting, because he has to cut himself. Suppose I am very much having got affinity about my old liking, like singing any song or anything. Will I be ready to discard it? That I have to see. So I am what my ego is. So can I just curtail myself, or can I cut myself to have that space which he is saying? And that space will automatically bring the other dimension into picture, which he has hinted. So one has to totally work on this subject, and he has to see, because here it's his individuality is also coming into picture. Suppose for Krishnamurti that energy is working very fast, and within no time the whole garbage is going. Just by attention, he has used word attention. Just by giving the attention in which there is only awareness. But is it also happening with you? Because directly that energy, that quality of energy has to be there. Then only, in my case, I have found that time, it is taking time. So when one has to observe what is happening actually with him, and Krishnamurti has also hinted that one has to, don't treat him as a this thing, authority, and go for your self-knowing and see what works for you. So these are all the points. Right now I want to say.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Pradeep Verma, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
You see, today's topic has raised so many questions, so many questions. All of us are talking about those questions after listening to him, this specific video that we have listened to and seen. You see, what is changing from moment to moment. And then somewhere it is said that what is not there. There is nothing like what is. What is changing from moment to moment, observer and the observed, both differences in the frequencies of movements in the two create space and time. All this happens in my mind, made up of ever-conditioning consciousness. What is as observer, as me right now, you may say it's observer or not, doesn't matter. They're highly conditioned. This is what is. What is that we are highly conditioned. And then this creates what should be instant transformation. Isn't it? It should be. It's not explained, it's not an ideal, one-pointed ideal, but transformation, lump sum something which has not been defined, otherwise it will be called as an ideal. So discontentment, do we have this thing? Surely, I have. Discontentment between what is and what has been told as what should be. That is freedom from the known, that is past, emptiness, and etc. Then what was talked about as the real religious mind, not seeking anything, virtually not concerned with anything. This also is a question related to the life I lead, that we lead in our 24 hours. Observer is concerned with the observed. In attention, they say observed is created by inattention. Inattention. So that again came as a question to me. Then experience, of course, one can say, because what you experience, your experiences are past only, that are being remembered in the present. So so ultimately, full attention in the moment when the self is not there, observer is not there. And they say it's not an ideal situation. It is approachable to all of us. Another question in me. So these are the questions, because everything I have received, the end of conflict in my mind, and talking whatever through my mind, communing or communicating with friends. So whether what has been talked about and why, if it is not attainable, if it is for whom, he has a number of places he has talked us as an individual. He loves to talk as individual, telling that you are collective, right? It's a fact, because we are collective. Thousands of years, we go on regression, you will go back to eternity. That's a fact. But understanding, individual understanding is so very different in all of us. Nobody can deny that. So all of us are observers. Talking of a situation, imagining a situation with no observer, no what is. So a very tricky situation, made complicated through words and their meaning in us. So this is what I want to share today, but this is my state of, I may say, consciousness. This is what is happening. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Yes, Prasad Garu, please.
Sir, I just wanted to react to your comment.
Okay.
That is, you said, when a child looks at the moon, he doesn't name the moon. He doesn't know the moon. But the moon exists still. I think the what is, he is not talking of physical objects. A tree doesn't disappear. Even when the observer disappears. What disappears is the emotional content, whatever is the psychological content. Those aspects, they originate from the observer and they disappear when the observer disappears. This is how I look at it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad Garu. Another question that I want to raise is the knowledge which is creating this dichotomy or the distance between the observer and the observed. Because the only difference I see between the child and me is that he doesn't have the knowledge, he can't name or she can't name. But the child is able to live in the present without any evaluation. In that state of mind where thought is not interfering in my observation, then there is no difference between observer and observed.
Yes. There is no observer for the child, or there is a very small quantity of observer. Very, very little observer is there.
Yes.
It doesn't have all our baggage, which we carry as observers.
Yes.
No tradition, no knowledge, no
Yes.
prejudice, nothing.
Yes.
And so its observed also is very small. It disappears. It doesn't have any psychological baggage to observe.
Yes. Thank you. We'll go to Dakshina Murthy sir. Yes, please go ahead.
Good evening to all. The title of today's video is Ending Conflict. So let us start from there and come to the question of the disappearing of the observer, disappearing of the observed, and a state of nothingness. So first of all, why does the conflict arise? Krishnaji is talking about comparison. In the physical world, a lot of comparison takes place, and that leads to lot of conflict, because I have something and I don't have what my neighbor is having. So I struggle to reach there. I may succeed, I may not succeed, but there is a conflict. What is and what should be? The conflict between what is and what should be, again, leads to, is creating the whole problem. Now, if you observe, definitely Krishnaji is talking about the psychological conditioning of the man and not about the physical thing, though because he's talking of awareness, awareness always starts with the external things, like the mountain, like the trees, like the clouds, and then like whatever is there inside us, the outside and the inside. So he combined both the things, but nothing wrong is, because he's talking of awareness. Suppose you look at an incident that is happening within me. Suppose there is anger arising in me. At the split second of anger, if you observe carefully, you will notice there is neither the observer nor the observed. Only that emotion called anger is there. That also we don't name it because we are not there. But thought comes running because an emotion has arisen and immediately it names it, saying it is anger. The moment the thought has named it, the observer is born and the observed is also born. Till such time, there is no observer nor observed, only a state of observation. We can call it pure observation. But we are not in that state at all most of the time, because our mental construct is like that. Thought is becoming very active, and it is naming the thing that is observed. And while naming it, it is actually the birth of the observer is also taking place. That is what Krishnaji was telling in the end also. We are not in a state of observation. We are not in a state of experience, mainly because, as Pradeep was telling, we are in a state of inattention. The birth of the observer in a state of observation is a state of inattention. Because there is inattention, there is observer and there is observed. If you are attentive, that is, your whole energy is given to the particular situation, particular what is that is arising in me, in my mental construct, then there is a possibility of observer not being there. And because observer is not there, observed is also not there. Because Krishnaji has told the foundation of his teaching is that observer is observed. He is not talking of the observer being observed in the physical world. The observer cannot become the tree, he cannot become the mountain, he cannot become the cloud. But in the psychological realm, because I am nothing but the bundle of memories that I have. I am nothing but my consciousness, and the human consciousness has got a lot of disorder in it. A lot of psychological disorder is there, like fear, anger, jealousy, hatred, and then suffering. All these are there. So I am that. So when anger is arising, that anger is not different from me. I am the anger. So when the observer is observed, you cannot do anything because you are that. So you have to be in a state of observation. You have to be in a state of perception without interfering with that. Then the psychological reaction that is there in my consciousness has got the freedom to unfold, to flower, and to show what it is, and what flowers eventually, if it withers away and dies. That's how it is. So this is a very important point that Krishnaji has been telling for all his life, that observer is observed. And also he talked a lot about division. He says division, when there is a division, that means there is a conflict. It is a law. He says it is a law. It is a psychological law. Like we have so many physical laws, like laws of nature we know, like the gravity, electromagnetism, and Newton's laws of motion, etc., to understand nature. Likewise, Krishnaji is the first person, to my knowledge, to talk about some psychological laws. This also he says, observed is also a law. So the division, because we are talking of conflict, let us look at the division once again. Why there is a division? See, thought is very limited. Thought is fragmentary. And the very movement of thought is divisive in nature. So wherever thought is there, there is division. Suppose you take an example. Say I am a scientist. I am looking at a object in the laboratory under the microscope, some bacteria, some microbes, etc. There it is very clear. I am the subject and what I am observing is the object. Their thought has done a great job, like all the technological progress, the development in the physical world, surgery, medicine, etc., is happening because of the great achievements made by thought in the physical and technological world.
But when the same there are other people who want to raise.
I'm coming to the answer. When the same thought coming into the psychological world, it moves in a divisive way and creating the conflict. So to end the conflict, we have to have that state of attention where the entire energy is concentrated. Summation of energy is called attention, in which case the observer is not there, and because of that conflict is not there. That is the end of the observer is the end of the conflict. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Durga ji, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. Yeah. So yeah, very interesting contributions and all. I think already people have summed up the points, sir. I think though in specific videos, Krishnaji is very specific in mentioning, the particular part of the, subject he is dealing with. But at the same time, I think we shouldn't forget about all the rest of the components also which are present, in his different talks and different dialogues and different discussions. So he is not only, though we are just bringing it to observe, maybe we are thinking that is a very important issue, but he says there are so many important points that he raised. Life is monotonous, lonely, utterly meaningless. So why can't we start from there? Are we aware that our life, there is no monotonous, lonely? Because he says, unless and until you are, and everything, he very clearly says, everything boils down to what is. And he does, and very surprisingly, there is no element of, no other spirituality, no other things, nothing else is there. In fact, if you look at it, it's very surprising also. He brings it to only what is all that is important. But to be aware of what is, are we aware of it first of all? He raised so many points. Life being monotonous, lonely, and utterly meaningless. Do we agree with that? Or if you not agree with that, so why can't we do that? And then he says, discontentment. How many of us are aware of discontentment? Do we have that quality in us? And if the discontentment is there, because he says, whatever the pressing thing in your mind, whatever that is bothering you so much, that's what my understanding is, sir. So that is triggering your consciousness again and again. Maybe that you have to start from there. So maybe that he says that for that he says you can call it discontentment, you can call it search, or you can call it sorrow. But maybe we go through all the different aspects of sorrow in a very normal way. We take just things for granted because we never allowed them to touch us. Because for us, everything is like, normal way. Life is people are leading life like that. So it's going to be like that. But what is the pressing concern in our minds, in our hearts? Maybe that is a search. He says, ending of the search. Ending of the search is ending of the sorrow. So unless and until we apply our minds into all these things, so you can bring it, observe. So first of all, is our attention going towards this? Because that is the area we have to pay attention to. First of all, are we aware of extraordinary awareness, he says. And he says, life is not about only nature. It's about the noise, the pollution. And so unless and until we open up our mind into all these areas, until and unless we are aware of all these aspects of our own lives and our own selves, I think how can the beginning be made? If we just stick to observe and how it is going to end, what is going to happen there, I think maybe we have limited it to that narrowed point. And he ends with a religious mind. And he says, I think, sir, being intelligent and maybe a human being, the creature who has got the potential to think, to improvise, he can do wonders with his thinking capacity. So all the thinking capacity and hundreds of things go on in our mind, in our world. So are we sensitive to all these things? So does it bother us? Are we aware of all these things? Unless and until that kind of a thing is happening. And I think ending is not important. The beginning is important, So the basic point for me, sir, can we bring revolution in what is? So what is, I feel, the pressing sorrow, the pressing concern of you is what is for you. So can you be with that? And can you remain with that and see what it is like? So unless and until that is not ended, you don't understand what is the ending of sorrow. And unless that sorrow is not ended, wisdom is not there. So though he says in a very sequential wise, I think we have to add in a lot of other points also, take into consideration of all his other extraordinary teaching also, which is so relevant to us. So not narrow it down to very few points, sir. That's all I had to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Durga. Yes, Mr. Ravi Kaushal, please unmute yourself and put your video on.
Sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Unmute, Ravi. You have not unmuted.
Yes. Hello.
Yes,
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir. So I think we have talked a lot on observers, we observed and discussed a lot, all the nice people, but still it is there. And I think, and mostly people talk in terms of we. So that makes the things philosophical, I think. So it's like you're not meeting with the subject. So that is one thing. Sir, may I stop my video?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. So, that observer is the observed is a bit, I think, so we should go slowly in this subject. I think first there is a division of what is and what should be. So that division and the conflict, one must has to see. That's the first thing I think which create more space and seeing what is as it is, and that is one thing. And not talking in terms of we. Otherwise, you do not have the energy to see the fact, to see, to be completely with the subject, with what is of your own life, like Durga ji said. So that is the one thing which can, I think, bring more space in one's life. That is the most fundamental thing, to see the fact individually, not talking in terms of we. That we are highly conditioned. We are highly conditioned is like an idea. But how could you put all the we into that? So these are the things I think. Talking in terms of we, not meeting with the subject completely. And the observer is the observed. I think only seeing the fact is the only thing which creates space in one's consciousness. Not going into all the escapes, like what is and what should be is an escape, like. So, or seeing all these facts individually, without doing any act on it, without doing any act on what is. That thing, I think, which creates the space, that space. And then there's one thing is saying that what is there as long as the observer is there. What is the creation of the observer? Okay. So I think that point is that very point where one meets with what is, and attention, and he bring attention which does not know what is. So the meeting of the observer and what is, and that observer wants to go into the state of that attention. I think that will never happen. I see that will never, because it is in attention there is no observer. So there is no meeting of the observer with the attention. There is no the observer and what meeting of the observer completely with the what is. That is the only thing which can bring change. I think so. There are the division.
You are muted, Ravi. I don't know. You are muted. We'll go to the next question. It says, Mr. Rajendran. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you again. Sir, coming back to the disappearance of both the observer and the observed. When there is complete attention, there is no observer. Observer creates what is. When there is no observer, there is no what is. So I think now the what is, where is the what is? Because I think maybe it is transformed. That is the ending of what is. So that is the transformation Krishna is referring. I don't know, sir. I don't know. So what is might have undergone a total transformation, maybe. So coming back to your that child and moon, there is a bright white object in the sky. The child doesn't know what is that. She is so surprised with that object, and she is asking her father, what is that bright white object in the sky? So the father, the observer, gives a name to that. So that is a moon. So when there is no observer, there is only just a bright white object only will be there. So because the nature is not created by the observer, but we have only given names to that. We have only destroying the nature. We are only giving names to that. When there is no observer, there is no moon in course, only the bright white object or bright white object in the sky. It just, but coming back to the original, where is the what is? Might be transformed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Dinesh ji.
Sir, you have asked a very interesting question, Dubey sir. Whether, what is the role of knowledge? You said knowledge is creating the space in between observer and observed. Here, one thing has to be understood very clearly, that what is the meaning of knowledge and what is the meaning of wisdom. Wisdom doesn't come and go like memory, whereas knowledge comes and go like memory. Knowledge means you have not done any work on it, you have not understood it, and you have not taken all the reference from it. What is its actual meaning, or what is its actual use? So one thing is very clear, we have to understand, suppose JK goes to a new field, which he has not touched earlier. He will definitely taking time to understand. Time will again come into picture because that is unknown, totally unknown for him. So when the things are not known to you, time will definitely come into picture. It is very clear. So here what happens, JK's all knowledge or whatever teachings he has given, that is knowledge for us. For JK, it is wisdom. This difference we have to understand, that for JK, this is wisdom. For us, it is knowledge. And as long as knowledge will be there, there will be the space. So unless we work on it, we go through the, he has also denied even experience. Suppose I touch an electric wire, got the shock, that is experience. But what I have construed from it, what I have learned from it, he again and again said that moving and turning. What we have learned. So unless we go to that wisdom level, seeing is doing will not happen. See, when we say seeing is doing, so do you mean to say that there is no past involved in it? It is not possible. When you are seeing and some action has already taken place within no time, doing. So that doing has to have some background available to it. Otherwise, right action is not possible. So some past is there, but that past has converted into wisdom. So there is no time, no observer is coming into picture, no your ego is coming into picture, direct action is taking place. So I think on such lines we should also think. Thank you. Again, sir.
Oh, sorry. Please unmute.
He has also very interestingly said that mind which is in a state of no experience. Here he has used the word. And also he said, in attention, there is no observer. Then who is there? When the observer is not there in attention, who is there? Something is there which is attending. That a quality of energy, have you understood? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Pradeep ji. Unmute.
Audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So we were talking about psychological domain, that JK is talking about psychological. We always remain in psychological domain only, for me. And it has a direct and very strong correlation with the physical world, physical part. So there is nothing like, the way this life, this energy in us has so many aspects where you can put that because of this physicality of physical things, consciousness works in a different way, in different conditions. In fact, the material world and the physical world is the chief source of conflicts in most of the cases, and we all know about it. So we are highly conditioned. This is what I call what is. I know it is what is. I am conditioned. And then he says, when you are not comfortable with what is, then you go to what should be. So Both the things he is emphasizing. He's not saying neither what is there nor what should be there. The thing is, the fact is that we are conditioned, human beings existing as I am, all those things we are living. We are living our life 24 hours in these conditions. So this is the thing, that this, whether transformation we were talking about, it comes to the domain of what should be without ideals. What should be without ideals? Again, a question comes to me. So whether this transformation, talking of transformation, is not what should be. So we are not, most of us, or a number of us, most of us are not comfortable with what is based on physical, psychological, memories, and all those things. So we can't, the moment we divide psychology and physicality, this is a division that will create a conflict in us. So what we, Jagdish Chandra Bose did a lot of work on this, living and so-called non-living, and the similarity between that. So we have to, the more we divide as words or understanding, the more we will discuss about it. This is, then Dubeji was talking about children as if they are blank slates. The researchers show they are not blank. They carry many things, but the only thing, they express it differently. Our language is different. Their reactions and expressions are different. This is what I feel. So we don't know exactly what that child is feeling. At times you'll find that hilarious mood. At times he will make faces. So the expressions are different. That is what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Ravi, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. So, I would like to say, Dinesh sir, it seems to me that whatever Dinesh has talked in this video, it's all the expression of observer, reaching to wisdom level and all that. Please don't talk on all these things of transformation, wisdom of intelligence, all these things, is an idea, I think. So let us see where we are, where I am, not seeking any wisdom, but the thing, the knowledge is there, and you can see that the knowledge is creating division between men. To perceive that, to see that, that is only thing, that to see, to perceive what is as it is the only thing, because it is there. And do not create the idea of to reach to some intelligence and all that. So these are, I think, not meeting with the fact, not meeting with what is. So what is a very revolutionary thing. If the observer is, completely giving his energy to what is, then I think it ends. That's much I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Yes, Mr. Parsarthi, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So Krishna ji often mentions that the observer is the past. Okay. But if you see, for Arun, he wants new things in his life all the time, right? Because what he already knows, he doesn't value it. He just takes it for granted. It could be in a relationship or whatever he sees. So when you see there is a constant demand within us, our life itself, to see, we want new things, new experience, new things. So the observer, whatever you call it, because maybe it requires some kind of knowledge or anything. So I don't know, I'm not able to understand how this observer, which is constantly in demand, it is like a ghost inside us, which constantly wants something new, fresh things. So isn't that itself kind of newness in which we see the world which we see itself? We look in for new things, so there are times which we look for new things. Maybe I'm not able to put it correctly, but something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll leave it at that, and let's remain with these questions which remain unanswered. Better to live with those questions. And I want to announce next Sunday, which is 23rd, our program will be at 9 a.m. Little early, but Professor Hilary Rodriguez, who is from Canada, he is from the Midwest, and to accommodate his time, we have fixed it up at 9 a.m. And he is going to talk to us on theme is embracing the unknown, the perspectives of J. Krishnamurti and others. Some of us have heard Hilary. He is a great scholar in Hinduism, has also touched great deal of Krishnamurti's studies. He was in Banaras for many, many years and written a book on Durga and used to come to Rajghat. He's a good speaker. He's a professor of religious studies in university in Canada. So please forgive me for the timing, but we had to adjust his time. So we have placed it at 9 a.m. So do join us. It will be an interesting talk. And in the beginning of the talk, I announced that this was the last video that I have shared with you of Krishnaji. And there were suggestions from many people that we should go back to the old format and take a passage which should be circulated, and we should have a discussion on that. So 3 weeks from today, that is the format we are going to follow. There will be a passage and you can read it. I'll read it through here. It shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't take more than 2-3 minutes so that there is enough time for discussion. But I invite each one of you, if you have read something which has deeply moved you, please do share with us and we'll have a discussion on that. So with these words, thank you all very much. Good night. We'll see you next Sunday at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Dubey. Modak, you can end it now.